Howdy, everybody. It's Lori Lowe here, and welcome back to My Sacred Binge. So I was thinking about the video I posted yesterday. I gave a definition of what binge eating disorder is. And I think if you just think about getting hit with the ugly stick of having a disorder around food, it's such an ugly disorder to have, because the results of it are so physically and readily available for everyone to see. I mean, if you have binge eating disorder, chances are you struggle with some kind of issue around weight, gaining weight. You're usually overweight. You're usually a serial dieter. You usually fall prey to weight loss programs in terms of, wanting to get rid of that weight. Matter of fact, I think it's like 60% of people that choose to join or pay for weight loss programs, commercial programs like the ones we all know the names of, 60% of those people have binge eating disorder. So these are people that are serial dieters already. They lose weight, they gain weight, they lose weight. So they just go back into this industry over and over again. We're going to get more into that, the diet industry, the food industry, and all that kind of stuff about how it really just makes having a binge eating disorder worse and does not help us. But today I wanted to talk about, how do I get a binge eating disorder? How does that actually happen? And there's all kinds of reasons. There's speculation that there's genetic factors involved, kind of like any other use disorder, like alcohol use, drug use, that kind of thing. Those are usually associated with some kind of genetic potential, maybe. But the reality is none of that gets started unless there is some kind of trauma in the life of the individual that creates a need to use any kind of substance in order to disconnect, soothe, numb, whatever. Now, the reality is that with alcohol, with nicotine, with heroin, with all these kind of very obvious addictive substances, we know that they have addictive qualities, and just a little bit of use can eventually you get to more use and more use. And there's a lot of neurological reasons for that, about how it affects our brain. The same thing can happen with food. It's not just that it feels good to kind of to tune out and have the pleasure of overeating foods, particularly sweet or sugary foods, which is my big deal. But also the fact that a lot of the processed foods that we're eating right now are highly addictive. They're engineered to be addictive. They're engineered to make us want to consume more of them and buy more of them. So that's where the food industry comes into this whole thing. My point is that there's a lot of factors that create a binge eating disorder, but it really begins and starts with there's some kind of action or activity or loss or trauma or something like that that gets going at some point in our childhood or in our early adulthood, whatever, that makes it satisfying to turn to any other substance in order to soothe feelings, comfort feelings, just stay unaware of what's really going on in our real life, to provide some kind of benefit. And that benefit can be across the board. So that's the point that I want to make today, is that there's something that happened to us that makes us predisposed toward really getting hooked and allowing ourselves to be hooked on some kind of substance other than reality, to kind of cope. And often when we're younger and these kinds of traumas occur, it may be a maladaptive or not very helpful coping mechanism, but it really was a type of survival mechanism. And as we become adults, we become adults that are, serial dieters, overeaters, habitual compulsive overeaters, et cetera, et cetera. And there's lots of methodologies that people talk about how to cure that. We're going to be talking about a lot of them in My Sacred Binge, but my point is that when you look back at what happened to you and that created and started this use of something to soothe and comfort yourself in a maladaptive way, you start to then, as I said, take away some of the shame and embarrassment about being somebody who compulsively overeats and eats way too much and weighs too much or whatever it is, or loses weight and gains weight repeatedly. So you got to deal with the shame of being a person who gets fat and then thin and then fat and then thin. I've done that. Start to look at that more objectively. What happened to you to make that, to kind of get that started? And when you look at that in a very curious and compassionate way, you can start to say, oh, maybe I can make different choices in the future. We're going to talk more about that too. In the meantime, I want to share my desktop with you, because there's a book I want to recommend. This is a screenshot from Amazon, but it's with Bruce. It's by Bruce Perry, but it's a conversation with Oprah Winfrey about this very topic, not about binge eating disorder, but about the kind of trauma that happens in our childhood that sets us up to have, to have addictive experiences, to have experiences where we maladaptively use substances or do things that are not good for us as adults and create a lot of pain for us, and that we stay looped in those because we do not understand why. We just know we're looped on something that has an addictive response in our brain. What Happened to You is the name of the book. And Bruce Perry, Oprah Winfrey, you can look it up on Amazon or any place you like to get your books. I highly recommend that you get the audio version of this book, because it's Oprah having a conversation with Dr. Perry. And it just feels like you're in the room with them and having a really good conversation about the how the brain really reacts to trauma in such a way that it creates the environment for maladaptive behaviors, like developing a binge eating disorder. And the good news is that there is healing there. Through awareness, there is healing there. So I highly recommend this. Take a look at it and see if it might have some value to you. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, you listen to it as an audio version. You can read it too, but the audio version is just really, really fun. So that's kind of what I have today. There'll be a lot more coming forward with My Sacred Binge. I'm really excited to get your comments on the material that I'm posting at this point. This is a program that's under development, so I'm looking for lots of great feedback. I'm happy to hear it. Let me know if there's questions that you have that I can answer directly, and we'll get going with all of this. So until then, have an awesome, awesome day. Bye.